On tonight's episode of the Denver Bronco Roundup, we will talk about the Denver Broncos evolution as it continues under Sean Payton, Bo Nix, and many others. We need to keep the momentum going. How does that get done? And does it include an amazing offseason? We'll get into that next on the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast. Let's go. Well, good evening, everybody. It's a Friday night. It's the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast. My name is Keith Brugman. I'm not alone. I got my good friend next to me. It seems like it's been way too long. Say hello to your man, the Rocket Man, Trevor Salzman. How's it going, Trevor?
Doing great, Keith. Excited to be here on a Friday night. Last weekend it was a Saturday night, but I'm glad to be here anytime with you all. Love the posse, and can't wait to dive deep into some Broncos talk tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. You know, I'm going to take a little sidestep, man. I didn't even talk about this backstage, man. When I first started the Denver Bronco Roundup, I didn't know what it would be or what it would become, man. I didn't know the great hosts that I'd be able to work with. Trevor, you're just one of them. You're the guy here tonight, man, but appreciate you so very much. We got Kenny. We got Jody. We've had Albert, the Mile High Dutchie, in the past as well. The community, though, the community that we've built is the thing that's been amazing to me. I appreciate the posse so much, what they've done, who they are, and, you know, what that honestly making us who we are and who we may become, right? We appreciate you so much. And the reason my thoughts come to there is because tonight's episode, we're talking about this Denver Broncos team, the evolution that's kind of come around, the change that has came to this Denver Broncos team. It is, if you just rewind a couple of years, it's amazing. I saw a recent post even like rate the 2020 draft. Whew. That's all I got to say. We have changed. We have turned the page. We have new ownership. We have new facilities. We have a new coach. We have a new direction. We have what most would say is a franchise quarterback. The evolution has started here in Broncos country, man, but it doesn't start and end with one season. And really, we got one good season in this evolution. It needs to continue, Trevor. And tonight, that's what we're going to get into. I'm going to get excited about what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. And I mean, just seeing this team even clear back from 2019, I mean, this team just continues to grow. They've been through leaps and bounds, to do different head coaches, to different, personnel from the roster standpoint. Quarterback situation's been a mess since pre-Bo Nix, I should say. It finally seems like this team has something to build off of this year, making the playoffs. The first year of Bo Nix and Sean Payton pairing. I think this Broncos team has a bright future ahead of them. But again, you still have to make the right moves at the end of the day.
You do, man. You do. There's a lot of moves to be made. I got to go in there. I got to move into the posse, though. So just say hello to a few friends. Got to say hello to David McElrath, who came in here super early saying, "Good evening, Broncos country," giving us the hashtag "Let's Go Bo." Love that, buddy. Good to see you, bud. Pearl's coming in here as well, saying hello to David and saying, hey, I guess we're the early ones because we did get started just a few moments late. It's good to see you, Pearl. Ernie Mays, go Broncos country only. Bo Nix for 6. Broncos are the greatest football team. And yeah, that's why we cover them. We thought they were the greatest football team too. We cheer them on every single Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I don't know any day that the Broncos don't get that opportunity to play in this day and age, but that's the way it is. And that's the way we love to cheer them on any day of the week, every day of the week. Because even when they're not playing, we're cheering them on. Good friend Roy Osborne coming in here saying, good evening, Horseman and the posse. Got our good friend Michael Ronquillo as well. Good evening, Keith and Trevor, and go Bo Broncos. Dropping 100 stars. Appreciate you, Michael. Michael, one of the OGs, that posse that I was talking about earlier, the community that you all are a part of. We appreciate you a ton, a ton. And Roy Osborne just saying, the evolution is just starting. It's just starting is exactly where we're at, bud. I want to, we could start all the way at the very, very top, but I'm gonna maybe even skip around a little bit. Let's just talk about these coaches and Sean Payton, these coaches and Vance Joseph, the kind of the two leaders in this on the football field with this team, the evolution that they've had so far, and the evolution that still needs to come. We'll start off with Sean Payton, man. What are your first thoughts when I start to say those things? What has Sean Payton done for this team, but what does he still continue to need to do, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think what he's done, Keith, from the start, I think is the culture. I mean, he has to. That starts really where it starts at. You have to create a strong locker room, and you have to build up on that. Yeah, they have to have the talent, but talent. It's not just about talent. About when it comes to the winning football games, you have to have the right locker room and be able to build that. So, I think with Sean Payton, that's something he's done a great job, and I've said it multiple podcasts now for multiple shows now. I think that's one thing that Sean Payton does really well. He builds that strong culture about the team. It's not about one guy in particular. And that's why this offseason is going to be interesting what players, they're going to add, and do they stick to that mindset of what they've built up to this point, that team first mindset. So I think Sean Payton culturally, he's built a great culture. He's bought into this team. And bought into making the most out of a situation with Russell Wilson, of course, and then getting his guy with Bo, finally, biting that bullet with Russ, and you knew that was going to happen eventually. And then getting Bo Nix, getting his guy, and having this team make the playoffs only in his second season as a Denver Bronco head coach. So I think that's what Sean Payton has done a very good job of. Also, like the health stuff with this team being very healthy. That's one thing that doesn't get mentioned enough. This team being able to be as healthy as they have been seems like that came into fruition when new ownership came in and Sean Payton came in. Sean Payton is really, bound and determined to make this team about as healthy as possible. Whether that's add new turf, have the ownership spend money on a new turf, or different medicine and sports medicine, being even step further ahead. So being in that category. So this Sean Payton's done, I think, a lot of good things, not necessarily things that people always see, like the health stuff. I think that doesn't get mentioned enough. What does Sean need to do better? I would say again, you have to have some sort of running game for Bo. You have to make things easier for Bo as time goes on. Bo Nix, that doesn't get talked about enough either. Bo Nix had a really difficult rookie season when it came to a lot put on him. And he handled it really well, but he had a lot to put on him in his rookie year. I don't know, how many other rookie quarterbacks would handle it that well as Bo did. Bo was a professional throughout the whole thing. Him and Sean, even, we've seen it at times. They even got into it on the sideline a couple times. So, but I think Bo handled it really well, and I think Sean going forward, he has to help his quarterback and put him in a situation to be successful. And that starts, Keith, with this. You have to be able to commit to a running back, and you have to be able to commit to a running game, even though if it's not there, because it can't just be Bo Nix about Bo throwing the football 40 times. It just can't happen all the time. Defenses are going to adjust to him. There's more film on Bo Nix, after year one. So year two, defenses are going to adjust differently to that. So that's something he has to do and help Bo Nix out and help this offense out, moving the football. But I think Sean Payton has done more good things for this team than downfalls. Every head coach and every coach, GM, they have their ups and they have their downs, and that's just what you have to deal with when you're dealing with head coaches and GMs and whatnot around the league.
Yeah, I mean, as many people that wanted Sean Payton there, I think there was as many questions around Sean Payton when he first came in. What will he do? What will he want to do? What type of coach is he going to be? How is he going to interact with the GM? Is he going to be the GM? There was a lot of questions around Sean Payton as he first walked through this door. I think the biggest thing that maybe underestimated was what you spoke to a ton. I'm going to get into a little bit more depth, not just the culture, but going a layer deeper, like you talked about the players. These players, and they talked about it postseason, the players that they're looking for, and you saw it in those Sean Payton teams. Players that just loved to play the game. They love football. First and foremost, they love to go out there. They want to get dirty. They want to work hard. They want to put in tough training camps. They want to put in the off-season work. You know, they want to be training in those high-quality facilities that keep them super healthy, that the ownership and Sean Payton have set up. That's the first and foremost thing that Sean Payton did, I think, to reset the culture. It was no longer about trying to go out there and get a Randy Gregory because maybe we can get that spark, even though character issues and effort may be a concern. No, you're a football player first. I'll take a guy that's at the tail end of his career that's limping along and is only 70%, but giving it 100%, than the guy that's out there that's young and only giving 70% when he could be giving 100%. Those are the guys that Sean Payton is bringing in here. It's exciting. It's exciting to see because it's culture changing, like you said. What he needs to continue to do, you hit it, man. Sean Payton gets a little ahead of himself, I think. Sean Payton gets a little excited. And maybe, and my good friend and fellow horseman, as you know, Jody Moncrief would say, maybe he gets a little full of himself and wants to show off to a few people what he thinks that he can do. Sean Payton needs to be still better yet again in the way he comes about with his script, sticks to his script, what he does on the field. I feel bad for what could be Javonte Williams exiting the building, for Audric Estime, and for Jaleel McLaughlin. Because I don't think that any three of them really got a fair shake at being a good running back for this football team. I don't think that Sean was consistent enough either with the individual or with the run game itself. Sean Payton needs to get better in what he does, man. And that's my 2 cents when it comes to what he needs to do and what he needs to improve on moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the concern this offseason. You know, we talk about running back, that need at running back. If you're going to invest into a running back, you better use them. I mean, we're not investing a second round pick into a running back just to do it. I mean, you have to be able to use him in multiple areas. And I think he tried using Javonte in that way. I think that for me, Javonte was one of many different Joker type guys that you had on this roster. Greg Dulcich is part of that as well. Marvin Mims in some areas, but I think Javonte was supposed to be that guy. And I think it was, Sean being all in on Javonte, or really not at all to me. And because Javonte Williams was still getting carries towards the end of the season, even in Buffalo, so I just think that how much is he willing to commit to a running game when you're going to be able to invest into a running back this year? You have that flexibility to do so. Will Sean Payton invest in that guy long term? It's one of those many questions that we're not going to get until next season.
Yeah. It's going to take a while to figure out that answer, even if we think we have the answer. Because like you said, we could end up spending a first-round pick on a running back.
Yeah.
We could go out in free agency and spend a lot of money on a running back if we wanted to, or in a trade and sign some guy to a big contract. But you got to use him. It makes no difference if you don't use him. It makes no difference if you thought, hey, we had a good first half, so we're just not going to even attempt to run the ball in the second half. It makes no difference if you sign that guy, but you're doing a 3-back system and he only gets 5-6 touches at the game. You got to use him if you go out there and you invest in him. And I guess if we're going to go ahead and wrap this all in, then the tight end is no different. We haven't seen Sean Payton utilize a tight end. Now, no one's accused us of having the best tight end room in the NFL, Trevor. No one said that. No one went out on that limb last year, believe it or not. No, we were right near the bottom when it came to like tight end talent as far as what most would consider. So you can equate that a little bit. If we go out and we go out in free agency or in trade, or we spend high in the draft like a lot of people are predicting, you better use them, Trevor. You better use them. It's going to be interesting to see how the evolution of this team, of this offense with Sean Payton and Bo Nix continues to progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have one of the best run block win rate offensive line in the NFL. And you still were not able to stick to the running game. I don't understand it. What drives me crazy with Sean at times. I think Sean Payton's done more good than I think some of his downfalls are. But it drives me crazy. And hopefully going forward, when they invest in that running back, we can see a difference in that run game and really help out Bo going into his second year, because I don't think it's just going to be a piece of cake for Bo Nix and a cakewalk for him in year two, because I think defenses will adjust. This is the NFL. This is the best of the best. Defenses will adjust to him. He's going to have to learn. He's going to have to grow from that.
You nailed it, man. It's too often that we get swept up in that we get swept up in that rookie sensation. And hey, there's something to be said when you all of a sudden let that brand new cat out of the bag. It's everyone's scrambling. And at some points when Bo Nix was scrambling, they didn't know what to do. He was the way that he was able to command the offense is what makes you excited for the future. He was put in the position to know it, to process it, and be most of it at sometimes. So that holds a lot of water. That's why you go forward and say, we need to start putting pieces around this, right? Yeah. It's the difference between, I'll just go back a few years, the Steelers and Kenny Pickett. The next year you're like, but if we could get somebody a little better, and that's not where we're at. We're like, hey, let's rally around this guy. Looks like we have something.
Mm-hmm.
But when you first let that cat out of the bag, that's one thing. Once everyone sees it, once everyone can start to adjust to it, once everyone realizes what you're trying to do with that cat, then it's adjustment time. And then it's not just for the coach, but for the quarterback. And that's sometimes a little bit tough on that quarterback. We saw it with, it's the easy one to say is CJ Stroud last year, especially as his weapons started to deplete around him a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's going to be, the upside of Bo Nix. I mean, he was able to handle, his rookie season really well, and you've seen where he passed the eye test when it came to being on the field and being the quarterback in the NFL his first season. It's about the second season, can he overcome that, and where do we see the growth from the rest of the team? And we haven't even gotten Troy Franklin, Devon Valen, and some of these other guys. I think that the Broncos are higher on them than most people think. I'll still pound the table on that. I'm not saying don't go out there and add a veteran wide receiver, but I do think they traded up for Troy Franklin for a reason. Devon Valen getting compared to Marcus Colston, a wide receiver that played really, really well under Sean Payton in New Orleans. He got compared to him. I think that they're higher in this wide receiver room, and it's going to be interesting not only to see how much Bo Nix continues to improve, but how the rest of these young guys continue to improve for the Denver Broncos as well.
Did you say A.T. Perry? Oh, wait, that's another one we need to listen for. Honestly, man, that's a guy that we got to look out for this training camp. We got to look out for a lot of guys and gals. They're in the posse. Yeah. They're blowing up the comments. We've been rattling on. I got to get caught up. I got to say hello to Clayton. He's coming in here saying, hey, guys. And like always, and you guys are fantastic about this. Love to see those thumbs up. Anytime you can give those like buttons, those share buttons, man, you guys are amazing. You've helped us grow. Appreciate every time you can come in here. Great way to top off a Friday. Well, ain't that the truth? Coming in here talking Broncos with all of you. That's a great way to to top off my Friday. Even if I'm still a little under the weather, man, I'm still trying to get over this, man. The Broncos added another coach to the coaching staff, says Michael Ronquillo. Trevor, I think you actually blurbed about this in the back chat, if I remember right. But maybe I'm wrong. If you could get me up to speed on that. I can't remember the name, but I remember this in somewhere in the back cobwebs of my head if you have that. So
Yeah, I don't have. It's on the special team side of things. Obviously, with their hiring Darren Rizzi, they're also having to hire assistants. So, was another assistant coach. Was it? I'll get it for you in a minute, Keith. We'll get to
yeah,
the rest of the comments first.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, you're always backing me up, taking care of me, taking care of Michael Ronquillo as well. Aussie Wombat. Aussie, it's been way too long, my friend. It's been a long time since I said that name. He says, hi, all from Perth, Western Australia. Been a while being able to watch you guys live. Well, Aussie, man, I appreciate you making the effort on the other side of the globe. Hope you're enjoying a beautiful summer. My winter has been piling up with snow, my friends, so I'm jealous. And I can't wait to get into the summer months myself. I just ran through the comments trying to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Aussie's coming in when we were talking about, again, the evolution of this game and what's going on. If we had a running back like Derrick Henry, we would have seen a lot more run game. But our running backs were not good, so couldn't really be trusted. But I do think Estime would get better in the second season. That was one of the more disappointing things, I guess, especially for our good friend and fellow horseman Jody Moncrief, was seeing Audric Estime getting benched against the Buffalo Bills heading into one of the biggest games the biggest game of the year.
Mhm.
Yeah, you already kind of felt like you knew where you're at with Javonte. McLaughlin always has that ability, so you need to go out there and give him a start. But Estime not getting the nod, and it's the reason that like I get back to Trevor. If we have him, we need to use him. This was an investment last year in Audric Estime. Feels like we didn't utilize it a bunch. And now we might be reinvesting into a running back one way or another. We better start utilizing him a little bit more. So, how much do you put on the fact that this running back room wasn't capable or able of handling this load? Especially, I mean, obviously, if you compare him to Derrick Henry, but compared to what Sean Payton just wasn't willing or wasn't, wanting to do.
Yeah, I just don't think any of the guys showed enough. I mean, even SMA did get some run. I mean, he started a couple games. I mean, yeah, did he get to run the whole season? No, but I mean, I think that that's where one of Sean Payton's downfalls. He wasn't able to stick to a running back. He didn't trust him. I mean, I think it was pretty clear. I mean, I know I get the SMA hype. I understand that, but they obviously must see something in SMA that they're not playing him, and that's a big reason why he sat against Buffalo. I will never understand Tyler Beatty being promoted and coming back and then just not really being involved at all in the game plan. But I mean, yeah, I mean, and who knows? I mean, even this next season, I mean, we may see, because Sean Payton has mentioned it multiple times, it's not just going to be one running back. They're going to be using at least two running backs at the very least. It's not going to be one guy, bell cow running back. That's just not going to be part of his offense. It never has been. He's going to use multiple running backs. It's just, we have to start getting that, kind of reality. That's just reality of the Denver Broncos right now, offensive wise. But yeah, I mean, SMA has his downfalls though too. I think that's another thing we have to point out too. I think SMA, while he's got a lot of potential, I think he was a 5th round pick. I don't think he's very effective in the passing game, and he's not the greatest blocker. He still has to learn. There's still some things to learn with him. I think he shows some potential at times. It just wasn't consistent enough when you go back and watch the film, and when you go back and look at the numbers, it just wasn't good enough for Sean to keep rolling him out there to be that starter. So I think he was trying to find that guy all season long. It's like you're kind of chasing your tail. You're trying to find that one running back that does everything, and you just weren't able to do it. I think Javonte was supposed to be that guy. But Javonte just couldn't get it done, wasn't consistent enough either.
In the running game. But every time you went out there and you put him out there in pass protection, what did he do? He went out there and put out the best performance of any running back that we had on the field. And when you have Bo Nix and you have Sean Payton wanting to maybe chuck around the ball a little bit more, all of a sudden Javonte Williams, that's why we saw him out there. That's why he got his run. That's why he got his play. Now, did we want him to run the ball and get 4.8 yards per carry? Yeah, absolutely. That just didn't play out. That's the other side that we wanted. The one thing I would say is I don't feel like he was ever like that Joker role, just because I don't think that he was ever really overutilized in the passing game. Yeah, he was an outlet. He was always the check down, but he was never the feature, in a lot of these plays. And I think when we get to the true Joker role, if we ever see that come to fruition underneath the Sean Payton offense, I think we'll see a lot more that's schemed in both, like, in the passing game, in those hands type of situations, more than we saw Javonte.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that I see for me, I think it was Javonte was supposed to be that Joker role. I think that this team, the cap space they had this last offseason, not that obviously this coming offseason before, when they released Russell Wilson, you knew you had to take that big cap hit. You don't have a lot of money to go out there and spend on a Joker role kind of guy. I mean, they were interested in Josh Jacobs. He didn't want to come to Denver. I mean, he went to Green Bay for obvious reasons. I mean, that was for his opinion, of course. But I think Javonte could have been that guy. I really do. I really believe he could have been. He just wasn't effective running the football. He was effective in the pass game when utilized, and he was effective in pass protection when utilized. But he just could not be able to. His vision wasn't good enough. He wasn't patient enough. He wasn't able to be effective enough on the ground game. And now you're probably going to see Javonte Williams likely not be back because of that reason. But I think he had that potential at one point in time. And I think Sean Payton thought that too. Out of all the running backs.
I will say this, and I heard this from another podcast as well. If Javonte Williams moves on, wish him all the best, man, because this guy's a pro's pro, a great guy. I can't imagine him being anything better than a great locker room guy. I don't have access there, but seeing him at training camp, talking to Javonte Williams at training camp, great, fantastic guy. Hope him all the best. There's also the possibility, man, that he doesn't get that big offer and that he could come back on the cheap. So don't rule that out, Broncos country. Just look for that as well. I'm looking out for Mr. Patrick Wiltsey. Coming a little bit further across the globe, we start off at Perth, and now we're over to, into the Hawaiian Islands. Patrick Wiltsey saying, aloha, boys. He's also dropping some stars, dropping 200 stars. Thank you very much, Patrick, man. You're the man. Appreciate you helping us out. And always appreciate you jumping in here, being a part of the posse. I've been a little under the weather and been running 100 miles an hour on top of it. I need to catch up with you off of this chat as well. Kenny Kirkpatrick, another horseman, saying, good evening, my fellow horsemen, and hello to the posse. No better way to start the weekend off than with a little bit of DVR, and it's great to see you, Kenny. Hope you're doing well. When we're talking about Estime, and this hit my mind too, Aussie Wombat comes in and says, Mims didn't show much in the first season as a wide receiver, but his second season was very good. We talked about that when it came to like guys like Mims, guys like Riley Moss, we're like, geez, are we ever going to see Riley Moss? And then Riley Moss took the league by storm when he was out there playing, at least. And now we come around to this second batch of draftees that came in this last year. Could Audric Estime not just be the guy that has issues, but be maybe in that kind of developmental program that it seems Sean Payton may have for some of these players?
Yeah, I think you absolutely can, because I think Estime is like 20 years old. I mean, he's very young. He's a very young rookie coming into the league. I think absolutely. I mean, he's got to put the work in this offseason to become a complete running back, though. I think that, they can use him running back by committee. You can, have him be used in different roles. But, I mean, that's what this Broncos running back room was. I mean, it was McLaughlin at this speed. He was your speed back. Javonte was your power back, but could do a little bit of everything. Estime was your power back. So I think that you can – Estime can be that guy, can grow into something, but he's got to put the work in. And here's the thing, he can put the work in. I don't think the Broncos are going to rely upon that, though. It's hard to rely upon that when he was sitting on the bench in Buffalo and not playing. It's hard to rely upon that. So I still do think they're going to go out there and attack the running back room and then bring in somebody, whether that's via free agency or via the draft, maybe both. But yeah, I mean, I think absolutely I will never rule out a player development and a player getting better. That's 100%. He can get better over the offseason. Hopefully he'll put the work in.
Yeah. At the same time, as I heard one other podcaster say, if you're cut the final game or you're a healthy scratch the final game, and you're a 5th-round pick, that doesn't guarantee you're a 53-man roster
Yeah.
guy straight out. Just doesn't
Yeah.
work that way, right? So it says a lot. So it'll be interesting to see if that's a developmental piece for Sean Payton as well. Just a few more. Michael Ronquillo, the running back, might not be on the Broncos offense right now. Kenny Kirkpatrick coming in saying running back room gets a complete renovation. Rookie and a free agent, McLaughlin can't be the Broncos backup, in my opinion. And Ernie Mays coming in and saying if the running back room doesn't show up, there's a two-way door that will be gone. Go Broncos. Easy in, easy out, says Ernie Mays. If the running backs aren't running, again, it is, especially with that position, a very deep field where you can go find guys. You can go find guys. And it doesn't need to be top guys, especially if your running back room is just plain out struggling. What's not struggling is us. And part of the reason why is because we have an amazing sponsor, and that's Morgan Trinkets. Morgan Trinkets is your headquarters for Southwest Jewelry, Southwest Pottery, Estate Gold, and wholesale prices. They've been doing it for over 34 years. Once a nationwide company, now they're just hanging out in your backyard, northern Colorado, southern Wyoming, doing amazing shows. I know they got one coming up, and I forgot where it's at. Had it on the tip of my tongue. So, Pearl, if you're out there in the comments, just remind me one more time. Got a show coming up at the end of the month. They do amazing shows, gem shows, fairground shows, you name it. They're out there and doing amazing business with all of y'all. But guess what? You don't have to just wait to go to those shows. You can check them out over on Etsy. All you have to do is type in Morgan Trinkets Co. That's Morgan Trinkets Co. And you're right there, right on their page, checking out all their amazing inventory, which includes silver. That's 100% sterling silver. All orders over $50 shipped absolutely free. All major credit cards accepted. You need to check out Morgan Trinkets today for all your Southwest jewelry, Southwest pottery, estate gold at wholesale prices, and that silver, 100% sterling silver as well. Pearl, thank you so much. Weekend after Coin Show is Longmont. Next weekend show is in Golden, Colorado. So you got to check all these out. You guys have been showing up, showing out, supporting Morgan Trinkets just like you support us. We appreciate you so much, and we appreciate Morgan Trinkets as well. We better jump over to the defensive side, man, because it just hasn't been a evolution on the offensive side. We've seen an evolution on the defensive side as well. Vance Joseph comes in. He's underneath a ton of heat. Here's the former coach that's brought in by Sean Payton. Didn't necessarily put the best taste in Bronco's mouth. Not that he was given the best cards to necessarily, play at the table with. But Vance Joseph comes back in after a few other teams, and questions are abound. Can he lead this defense? What will it be? And I think he answered quite a few questions, but a few questions still remain. I guess I'll go back to the same question that we went with Sean Payton for you, Trevor. What are your feelings as far as what Vance Joseph has done for this defense so far? And now where does he need to continue to evolve and take this defense?
Well, I think this defense has evolved even more than the offense, Keith. This past season, I think that if this defense doesn't play at this level, I know they had their struggles throughout the season against good offenses, but if this defense don't perform, I mean, this team's not making the playoff. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, you have to have a complete team to be able to make the playoffs. It can't just be about the offense. Can't just be about the defense. You got to be able to play it together. Yeah, I mean, I think Vance Joseph, I mean, he got a lot out of this defense. I think some of the offseason acquisitions, John Franklin Myers, Malcolm Roach, Brandon Jones, and I mean, no one's missing Justin Simmons. Now, all due respect to Justin Simmons' name hasn't been brought around a lot because of Brandon Jones. Brandon Jones has played real well for this Broncos team. He's been able to stay healthy for the most part. So I think some of the acquisitions you were able to, bring on the defensive side of the ball for VJ to play with, really helped this defense out. I mean, this was a top 10 unit all year long. I mean, and again, 195 pressures, first in the NFL, 63 sacks, first in the NFL. They blitzed a lot. Of course they did. But you were still able to see growth from Nick Bonito. You're able to see growth from Pat Surtain again. I mean, Pat Surtain is as elite as he can be, but he had a fantastic season. I think he haven't had an even better season than he did last year, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Jones, you've seen that growth. Before Brandon Jones was just a rotational safety in Miami. Now he's a starter and he's playing at a high level when he's on the field. Bradley Moss's growth this year. He was asked to do a lot this year on the opposite side of PS2, and he's done a great job. And so Vance Joseph, I just think in general has really done a great job growing some of these younger guys while also getting some of these veterans together and be able to mix together a great defensive group. Now, again, they have their downfalls 100%, and there needs to be some attention to the defense this offseason. But VJ's defense was very impressive this year. I don't think we're talking about a year ago from now or a year ago, last year. I don't think that we were talking about this defense being this good. I don't think anybody thought this defense was going to be this good this season, and they proved everybody wrong, and they were fantastic this season. Kudos goes to Vance Joseph for being a great coach and getting these guys in play in a place to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, the switch that was made from being a non-aggressive defensive front to gap penetrating, get up the field type of defensive front was huge. It unleashed guys like Zach Allen.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have, the year before when we were like, Zach Allen, yeah, decent signing. Had a couple of plays. It's all right. And then we were like last year, like Zach Allen, yes, go Zach Allen. And guys out there playing every snap on top of it, but except for the one game he missed. It's a completely different philosophy change. And that comes from the top down. That's a Vance Joseph type of thing. The blitzing that we saw, that's a Vance Joseph type of thing. You nailed it. When you bring in, for one, I know the hype around John Franklin Myers was big. Everyone, when that trade went down, we're like, oh, we got the best trade. That hype can be all just, a big facade. It's got to play out on the field. John Franklin Myers played out on the field. Good pickup, but good coaching. Got him in the right position. Knew how to utilize the guy. Got the job done. When you talk about our safety that we're bringing in from Miami, and every single one of us, I think, was going, we just got rid of Justin Simmons. That's a potential Hall of Famer. That's a All-Pro time and time again. We're kicking this guy out the door. By the way, on another podcast, I heard that Justin Simmons was maybe making his own play calls, and that might have been a reason why he maybe was not brought back. Just saying. Another podcast. I'm just spreading other rumors from other podcasts if that happens to be the case. But again, for us to move on from a guy like that, and I would say we didn't miss a beat. In fact, we maybe skipped a beat. We picked it up a little bit. In what we got out of our safety play in general, I think it was actually an uptick from where we were at a couple of years ago. And that was a couple of guys who had some couple big names attached to them. This defense needs to continue to evolve, but this defense and the steps that it took from the year before to this year was monumental. And you got to recognize that, Broncos country. We took a $53 million dead cap hit from Russell Wilson. We went out there. We made the playoffs. We looked better than average on offense and was scary to a lot of teams. The defense struck fear at times in many teams that we were lining up against. And the ability to get better only improves from here. Now, what Vance Joseph does will be interesting. He's going to have to put some more key pieces on this defense. I'll maybe get to a few thoughts on here because we talked about what a good postseason looks like for this Denver Broncos team. And I know we've gotten a lot of comments of what postseason might, or off season, not postseason, off season might look like for the Denver Broncos in this 2025 off season. But what he's done so far, what he's been able to coach, and what he's been able to put around this team and get out of this defensive team, yeah, you got to give a hats off for Vance Joseph, especially under the conditions. I don't think anybody was looking for him to succeed. I think Broncos country didn't have high hopes. He went out there and pretty much proved us wrong, and I'm kind of happy he's still around. Paul Schaefer comes in here. I want to get your thoughts on this. Let's get Greenlaw or Greenwood. I think that's Greenlaw, right? Greenlaw and free agency, says Paul Schaefer. What are your thoughts of Greenlaw?
I think it's a risky move. I don't think he can be your starting inside linebacker. Listen, he's good when he's healthy, but coming off that season-ending injury last year, I just don't think I'd be throwing my big money at that. Now, it might be more of a one-year deal for Greenlaw, and you kind of see what you have. But no, I mean, the guy for me is Zach Bond, and I know that that's a name that's been floated around there quite often. But I've seen Zach Bond on tape-wise as well. And that guy is explosive, and I know, he's able to be blitz. He brings blitz as well. Really good in coverage. He's a big inside linebacker. Brings a lot of size to the room. He's quick. He's played, with Sean Payton. Him and Sean Payton have that connection in the past. Sean probably knows a little bit of what he is. Zach Bond has also proven that when he has playing time, it gets around a lot of really good players, of course, he can be effective. So Zach Bond, for me, would be a guy that I would love. If the Broncos are going to spend big on a guy that was healthy last year, had a fantastic year, fantastic season last year, and as well, I think has still more left in the tank. Because here's the thing, Keith, there's players around the league that you don't know when they're going to hit their stride. You don't know when they're going to have their big season and when it's going to take off. Who says that Zach Bond can't continue to have success as an inside linebacker? I think he can, with that size and what he's able to bring speed-wise. What he did with Philly, he won a Super Bowl there. He did everything he was asked to do. I'm more of a Zach Bond guy. 28 years old. He's going to be 28 years old next season, too. I don't think he turns 29 till December, towards the end of next season. I know there's some people on Nick Bolton. I'm not a big Nick Bolton guy. I just don't. I think that for me, he's not even the Chiefs' best inside linebacker. And for me, I watched him on tape too, Keith, and this is my opinion, the explosiveness. I think he's lost explosiveness a little bit. He's not great in coverage. I think Bond's better in coverage, and he certainly was this past season. And so for me, if you're going to go spend big money on inside, at inside linebacker, it's got to be, for me, it's Zach Bond. I think that guy, there's going to be a reason why he's going to get paid, and I think he had a fantastic season. I think he can continue to do that for the Broncos, being that they can still add more pieces on the defensive side of the ball around a guy like Zach Bond. I don't think you're just going to affect, add a guy like Zach Bond and then just forget about the defense. You're going to be adding multiple pieces likely as well, and Zach Bond being that big piece, obviously, in free agency that you would look to add.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second. First, I'm going to get Gary Palmer caught up. No, Javonte has not been released. And yes, it's just kind of an assumption at this point that
he's a free agent.
Well, yeah, I guess it wouldn't be a release. It would be the fact that you're not re-signing him, I should say. Thank you. I appreciate that. All of a sudden, I lost my train of thought on that train of thought as well. So captain's coming in and saying, we need another Tombstone Jackson. Tombstone Jackson is a guy that, would probably just be penalized out of the league at this point. But that's here nor there. I understand what you're saying. And it leads to the point. I want to get to this first. I want to leave this comment up here. Everyone needs to recognize what Trevor just said. Trevor doesn't necessarily believe in going out and paying for a big free agent. Zach Bond would be probably the biggest name that I've heard Trevor go out and say, we need to go out. We need to pay for a guy. And this is the guy, and this is the position. And he's said that was Zach Bond. That should hold weight because I value Trevor's opinion. You should value Trevor's opinion. I think would make a fantastic general manager for a team someday if anybody's out there listening. That being said, Zach Bond would be such a huge piece to put in that linebacking core. My question to you, before I get to Captain's Tombstone Jackson comment and kind of play off of that for a second, is who is lining up next to a Zach Bond in your linebacking room or core or duo, as it may be. So,
Yeah, for me, you have to see what you have with Drew Sanders. I think this is might be a make or break season for Drew Sanders next year. Honestly, Keith, he's going into his third season. You have to figure out what you have with him, and I don't think he's going to be in the edge, be an edge rusher next year. I just don't think that's going to be the case. Where's he going to play? I mean, you have Nick Benito, Jonathan Cooper, Jonah Ellis, Tillman. I mean, where's he going to? He's the fifth best edge rusher on this roster. I mean, he's got to be inside linebacker, in my opinion. That's just the best way he could possibly play. That's not special teams. I mean, honestly. And so for me, if you're going to bring in a guy like Zach Bond, which again, I think that he could be your starting inside linebacker, I can't go into next season, and I don't think the Broncos can either, with Alex Singleton and Drew Sanders being your projected starting inside linebackers. And I think that Cody Barton, was a solid signing, but he's not great in coverage. He got exposed to that multiple times this year. So did Justin Strnad. We've seen the weakness in coverage from the inside linebacker room this past season. You have to go out there and get an upgrade. If I'm going to go spend big in free agency, it's going to be on probably the defensive side of the ball as of right now. Speaking of, if Philly does not end up re-signing Zach Bond, because there's always that scenario where that can happen. But for me, I would bring it if I'm going to bring in a Zach Bond or just a major free agent. We'll just say a major free agent, get a major free agent at inside linebacker. I think you bring back Alex Singleton and you let Drew Sanders and Alex Singleton compete for that second inside linebacker job going into training camp. And I think you can do that because I don't know that you're going to find too much better of an inside linebacker than Alex Singleton. I think Alex Singleton, coming off that major injury, Drew Sanders still needs something to prove. It's competition right there at linebacker. And I don't think the Broncos are going to spend big money twice at inside linebacker. Maybe they look into the draft to get a guy, but I don't think they're going to do that pretty high in the draft. I don't think they're going to do that higher in the draft because they have other needs as well that they need to address.
Yeah. Needs-based draft, best player available draft. That'll be a whole different question. I'm going to go back to back. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times. Captain says, we need another Tombstone Jackson. Aussie says, our D-line was above average, but very poor against the run. We need to change that if we want to get to a Super Bowl. Roy says, bad thing was our defense was one-dimensional. Take a look at the Eagles' defense, way better than ours. And Patrick comes in, again, over from the Hawaiian Islands. Appreciate you, Patrick. Saying, I would like to see a couple of defensive linemen, a couple of linemen for the defense from the draft. I'll just change up the sentence however I like. Trevor, it leads me to this. How much of this is going to be dependent upon that defensive front? Because, again, we were the heaviest blitz team in the league. The Eagles won the Super Bowl by blitzing hardly at all. How much is dependent upon this defensive front, especially for a guy like Zach Bond or whoever else we bring in for that linebacking core, but also versus the run, which we could always get better at. That was our crux last year, was sometimes what got done against us when we went up against the run.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big component in investing into your defensive line and your offensive line. I think if you don't have that, you're probably not going to win many games in the NFL. So I think they absolutely need to invest in the defensive line. I know that DJ Jones had a solid year last year. I get that, but he's getting older. Where's the long-term investment on the defensive line? There is none right now, other than probably Zach Allen, because you're going to probably re-sign him long-term. But you don't have anybody else long-term that you can place on that defensive line. There's no Jalen Carter on that defensive line. The closest guy you have is Zach Allen. They need to invest in that. Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, those two guys stand out to me in the draft that you could possibly look at defensive linemen up front to look at and possibly upgrade. That's why I haven't ruled it out at all. And in fact, my last mock draft that I made, I ended up choosing a defensive lineman for your Denver Broncos.
Yes.
So I still think that, yeah, they need to invest in that. Don't be surprised if they do that in the first round. And honestly, I don't hate that. If they take interior defensive line in the first round of the NFL draft, I'm not going to hate that at all. I think that's a smart investment because in order to beat Patrick Mahomes, and the Eagles prove that, it's not just about having an elite offense. You got to have an elite defense as well, and you got to be able to get after Patrick Mahomes and put pressure on him. And you have a very tough division with also Justin Herbert, and you don't know what the Raiders are going to bring in as well. But you have to be able to get after the quarterback, and you have to reinvest in that defensive line long term. I think the Denver Broncos should do that this offseason.
Yeah, there's investments, there's depth, there's rotation. We don't want Zach Allen out there taking as many snaps as he has. An interesting name got released in one Sheldon Rankins. I don't know if that necessarily turns your crank. He started 7 games, I think, for the Cincinnati Bengals last year, if I remember correctly. So one's a big name and a big guy up front. He can certainly be a guy that can plug a gap and eat up a run game if that's the type of guy that you want to go after. Quick thoughts on the Sheldon Rankins, maybe.
Yeah, you got to take a look at him. I think 100%. I just, again, long term, I still want to invest into the defensive line long term. I mean, it's great that there's more free agents becoming available on that defensive line. And then there might be even more so going forward. We're still a couple of weeks away from free agency, but long-term defensive line, and I think you have to invest in that. And that's what the Eagles have done. That's what the Chiefs have done too. These teams that win, they invest up front. And you have to be able to stop the run at a high level and get the quarterback at a high level. Sheldon Rankins, okay, 1-year deal, I'm fine with that at the right price. But I still think you have to think highly, very hard about drafting a defensive lineman high in the draft, because this is a good defensive line draft class, and there's a lot of depth into it. I think if you're the Broncos, you could possibly take advantage of that this year.
I'm going to take a little stab at this one. You can jump in on this one as well. Michael says, would Zach Bond want to play for defensive coordinator Vic Fangio or Vance Joseph? That is the question, in my opinion. One thing that I play on either side. I see Scoops in here. He's a big Philadelphia Eagles fan. The Eagles haven't necessarily overpaid for that linebacker position in the past. And that's one thing that is going to have to come into context. Is Zach Bond going to be that guy that says, I'll take the big hometown discount because, I'm on a Super Bowl team and things are looking pretty good for me over here? Or is he going to say, I've put together one great year. I got my chance at free agency, and I'm going to have to chase the dollar a little bit if I want to get, the best contract at the best opportunity. It's kind of like coaches. It's like, do you pass up this opportunity because it doesn't come around? Heard somebody mention that, last year everyone was like, ooh, Bobby Slowick. We should all go after Bobby Slowick. Well, Bobby Slowick was let go by the Texans. You got to take your opportunity sometimes when you have that opportunity. Will Zach Bond want to stay with the Eagles? Will the Eagles offer him a good contract? Where can the Denver Broncos come in? And then the question becomes, yes, Vic Fangio or Vance Joseph, after all those other things maybe become equal. If all those things are equal, I think that it would be pretty tough to leave the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's face it. He's in a great system. He's got some great players around him. The future doesn't look too bad. It might take quite a bit to try to pry a Zach Bond away from the Philadelphia Eagles. What say you, Rocket Man?
Yeah, I mean, I think the money is going to come down to the money. I mean, if it's close, maybe he does go back to the Eagles, but the Eagles are going to have to pay, guys down the line too if they want to keep that team together. I mean, that's just a whole thing of you can't keep everybody in a cap league, and so I think if the Broncos offered Zach Bond a good amount of money, which I think that they would if they're interested in him and want him badly enough, the Eagles may just let him walk because he's going to get a lot of money, and they have other guys that that they have to pay down the road. And plus, Howie Roseman there in Philly, he loves to replenish in the draft. He's aggressive in the draft and aggressive in replacing players on that roster. So they may just let a guy like Zach Bond go and then go and draft somebody in the draft to replace him, or go sign a cheaper free agent and hoping to get that Zach Bond like guy going into next year, maybe just a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. I'm going to get to this. I know this is like last minute. We can maybe go just a few minutes overtime on this one. I think everyone will be interested in this. Maybe give me three keys to the Broncos' successful offseason, man. I know that's, like I said, we're trying to cram it in. We'll probably have a bigger episode on stuff like this as we continue this offseason. But three keys you think for this offseason?
I think it's first and foremost, it's got to be measured. I mean, you got to be measured in every move you make if you're the Denver Broncos. And George Payton in particular, has talked about that, and we've heard multiple times from ownership, from Greg Penner, that this team's going to invest in draft and developing. You have to draft and develop if you're going to win football. I mean, you can go and spend in free agency all you want, but spending in free agency and spending top dollar doesn't win you games. I mean, wins you games is being able to draft and develop and be able to put a good roster overall in general, and be able to do that and put that on the field and be able to run away with that during the season. So for me, number one, it's going to be measured. You have to, because here's the thing: one major investment could really turn the tides for this team. We've seen that with Russell Wilson. They went big game shopping. I know it's quarterback. I get that. But look how much it really impacted the Broncos long term. They're still doing with that $32 million dead cap hit this season, all top of the draft picks you had to give away and whatnot. So every move you make impacts your roster, and whether good or bad. So you have to be measured. And you have to be smart with what you're going to go do. And I don't think that going crazy this offseason, which again they can create more cap space than what they have with putting some of that base salary into signing bonuses and whatnot, creating more salary cap space. That being measured, I think, really taught the Broncos something last offseason. And they were able to do that. So I think that for me is number one. Be smart and be measured, because you don't have to go crazy in the offseason to be successful and have a successful season going into next year.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just leave it at one, because if we get into three, it's going to be a lot. A few ideas. Patrick Wilsey says, one, smart free agent spending. This is kind of right along the being measured, right? Filling holes properly. We talked a little bit about that a little bit earlier, in the fact that, again, finding those guys that really want to be football players. You know what I mean? I think that's part of filling holes properly. Finding players that want to play in Denver. Kenny Kirkpatrick, his three: have a successful draft, sign veterans in positions of need, make a splash with a bold trade, is his idea. Splash always scares me, Kenny, but I like your thoughts, man. Hey, it wasn't a bold trade. It was more that free agency. But Saquon Barkley was a splash that worked out. You can make a splash, but you don't want to make just I don't know, a belly flop.
Reckless.
Either. Yeah,
you don't want to be reckless.
Belly flops can make a big splash. I don't want any belly flops. Yeah, you don't want to be reckless in your splash. Trevor, it's going to be interesting to see how this Denver Broncos team continues through this offseason. We were talking about it earlier. I think it was, and Pearl brought it up, February 27th, the beginning of the combine.
Yeah. Pearl brought this up earlier, and I actually have the positions are going to be on those days. So Thursday is February 27th is when the combine actually starts. It's defensive linemen and linebackers. Friday, February 28th is defensive backs, tight ends. Saturday, March 1st is quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs. Sunday, March 2nd is offensive linemen. And George Payton and Sean Payton will be speaking to the media Tuesday at the combine, and I have the times here. Sean will speak at 12:15 p.m. Mountain Time, and George Payton will speak at 12:30 p.m. Mountain Time. So unless that changes between now and Tuesday, we expect that we're going to hear from George Payton and Sean Payton and getting a little bit more clear of a direction of what they're thinking towards free agency and roster cuts and whatnot, and as well as the draft. So it should be interesting. Tuesday's episode, Denver Bronco Roundup, will be very interesting, just like all of them are, but it's going to be nice to hearing from George Payton and Sean Payton for the first time this offseason.
It's funny. It took the words right out of my mouth. I'm like, Wonder what we'll be talking about on Tuesday nights as we go live every Tuesday, every Friday, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Well, that will be just like 7 hours removed from when George Payton probably leaves the podium. And, a few minutes after that, after Sean Payton had left talking, down there at the Combine. Combine, free agency, trades are always a possibility. We have, those unexpected cuts, whether it be from our team or those teams that are out there. I mean, everything is still on the table. Everything is still on the table. We never know when we might just go ahead and jump in and have a surprise podcast, especially during the off season. This is the time of year where things happen, and we got to jump on here. The best way to make sure that you're not missing a beat with the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast, make sure you're like, share, subscribe, so that you never, never, ever miss us going live. You never know what's going to happen, man. Pull off that blockbuster trade. Want to be talking about it? We want to be talking about it too. So we're going to be jumping on here when anything big happens, as well as every Tuesday, every Friday, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Trevor, we need to get out of here. Karen's saying hello as they basically just barely made it. Just forgot about it because I had the day off from work. Well, enjoy your day off, Karen. It's going to be a weekend for most of y'all coming in on this Friday night, but we got to get out of here on a Friday night as well. Trevor, fantastic episode, man. A lot of good discussion, a lot of good talk. Posse was amazing, but yeah, we got to roll out. Anything to say before we roll?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Combine being next week, February 27th on Thursday, starts on Thursday to Sunday, March 2nd. It's not just about the Combine and about the players. It's obviously that's the big highlight of that day and team speaking and different executives being at the Combine. But here's the thing, Keith, we haven't even mentioned it yet. There's some deals that happen at the Combine. And, when you get general managers together, they start thinking, they start making deals. The Russell Wilson trade, I believe, was orchestrated at the Combine, if I'm not mistaken. So it's something to keep in mind. Deals could happen at the Combine, or they could be structured at the Combine at the very least. So something to keep an eye on. But again, Posse, you guys are amazing. We love being here for you guys. We do this podcast for you guys. So really appreciate everybody for hopping in, whether you're watching live or after the fact. Please like, share, subscribe, and we love you guys. And we do this for you. Again, like he said, you never know when we're going to pop on and have a podcast for you guys. We've done it, I believe, last year in free agency, the day one of free agency. We were on here breaking everything down right after the moves happened. So look forward to it. Look forward to having a great offseason with everybody. Appreciate you all. Hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Be safe. Stay warm. We'll see you guys next time. As always, go Broncos.
Yeah, absolutely. Go Broncos. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, by the way, Apple Podcasts, we're there. Spotify, we're there. Take us on the go now, guys, gals, everybody, man. You got to run out there, get on the treadmill, plug us in. You're on the way to work in the car. We're there. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We're trying to be on all the platforms just for all of y'all. Thank you so much to those who were able to jump in here, be part of the comments. Special thank you to everyone who dropped stars as well. You guys are absolutely amazing, and we know it's not always possible. So those who are able and capable, a little bit of a shout out to all of you all. We do need to get out of here. We go live like I said, every Tuesday, every Friday, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. This is the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe because we might be going live. You never know when. Thank you to our amazing, amazing sponsor, Morgan Trinkets, always in here sponsoring our show, making sure that we're getting on here, helping all you guys out by keeping you up to date with Denver Broncos news, notes, rumors, and our thoughts and ideas, as well as all of yours. But we get out of here, and we get out of here one way only, and that's this way. Make sure you keep those boots in the stirrups, your guns in the holsters, and the Denver Broncos in your heart. Until next time, we're going to get out of here. Have a great night, everybody. Go Broncos.